Welcome to Making Stuff, in this case PCBs, with Chris Dayhut. Isolation milling is a process that combines several technologies together in an automated process. The process is very similar to industrial processes used in the manufacturing to create very accurate parts efficiently. And those parts could be anything and everything that you can imagine. Isolation milling is a very involved process. Over time, I've refined that process to get very predictable and reliable results. And that is the discussion of this series. Today, we're going to talk about what is needed to perform this process. This is just an overview look at it. In future videos, we'll go into much more detail about each of these items. It'll all start with a design. And to do that design, you'll be using a piece of design software. These design programs for making PCBs come from different backgrounds depending on how they've evolved. A lot of it goes back to our schematic design software that they added a feature for manufacturing PCBs. Other design software started with CAD, computer-aided design software, that was adapted for this purpose. All around, doesn't matter what the background is, the purpose of this software is for you to do the layout, either manually or automatically, so that you get all the components mounted on your circuit board and that there are connections between them, called traces. The next step in the process is to convert that design data from the design elements into toolpath data for performing the isolation milling process. To do that, a piece of software, yet another one, is called CAM, computer-aided machining. Some people also call that computer-aided manufacturing. In our case, there is a piece of software, several pieces of software, that will take data from that design software, the geometry data, and allows us to apply cutting conditions to the tool paths and assign tools to perform those specific machining operations. Probably one of the most important parts needed for isolation milling is the CNC machine itself. The CNC machine will take a computer program that directs the cutting tool to move along a specific path at a very specific speed and velocity of motion. It moves very precisely. Even the most crude machines can be accurate to within 0.1 millimeters, or even finer than that. In the inch world, that would be a couple thousandths of an inch. So these things are extremely accurate and precise, and they are automated, eliminating a lot of the problems that humans cause in a machining process. The tool bits are another critical aspect of performing the isolation milling process. And when I do say process, I mean the entire process of making the circuit board and not just performing the singular step of isolation milling. In this process, the way I'm describing it, we're going through and drilling holes, milling shapes, etc. So it's a very a wide variety of cutting operations that we're performing, all automated. Now, these aren't your ordinary cutting tools. These things are made out of tungsten carbide. They're very sharp, very hard, but they're also very brittle. So working with them by hand is very problematic, and you'll often break a lot of tools when trying to drill with them by hand. But the CNC machine makes these tools cut very fast, very efficiently, with very little breakage. In order to make the circuit boards, we need raw material. And a very common material that you'll use is, you'll hear it referred to as copper-clad material. and that refers to the copper being clad to a substrate. The substrate is often a glass-filled epoxy resin type substance. So it's made up of fiberglass cloth and a resin to bond it together and hold it into a rigid form. It is very abrasive to cutting tools because it is literally glass fibers. So it takes a little bit of technique to machine this stuff without destroying all your cutting tools. I buy this material in bulk off of eBay, and even sometimes you can get it on Amazon. Just search for copper clad or PCB board, etc., and you'll often find sellers selling various sheets, a pack of 10, 20, 30 for very reasonable prices. A word of caution, you do not want to breathe in the dust while machining this. It's very hazardous to your lungs. It'll get into your lungs and it will not come back out. So wear respirators and use adequate dust collection and so forth. But this is what you'll be making your circuit boards out of, and the raw material really isn't that expensive. Liquid tin is part of the process. It's not necessarily related to the isolation milling or anything of that nature, but it is a coating, tin coating, that can be applied to the copper so that it is much easier to solder. I buy small bottles like this because I don't use it very frequently, and I pour a little of this solution into a flat tray, then put the circuit board in it, and it does its magic. We'll go through that process in much more detail later on. But this will make your circuit boards much easier to work with and a much better final product. Ideally, you want legends, engraving on the top surface of the circuit board to tell you which components go where and other general information about the circuit board. Doing that within the isolation milling process is very easy when you use a very simple paint process prior to engraving the letters. In this example here, these two paints, I've used both of these, a dark blue and a black. One is water-based, the other is alcohol-based. I use these paints in model making, and it works really good. I use an airbrush to apply it. This technique will be shown in greater detail in a later video, probably one of the last ones, because that is one of the last things we do when doing the isolation milling process. We will engrave the legends onto the top surface. This next device we're going to talk about is very critical to the accuracy and quality of your isolation milled circuit board. And it's one of the cheapest things in the whole process. This is a spoil board that I've had on my machine for probably a couple of years. It's made a lot of circuit boards. And the reason why we call it a spoil board, we will affix the circuit board material on here and do all the machining, drilling into it and drilling holes, milling slots. You can see the outlines from when I made these little circuit boards. So it gets consumed in the process. This material is called MDF, medium density fiberboard, and it's essentially just glued together sawdust, and it works perfectly for this application. But I'll go into a lot of detail on work holding in a future video because of the importance of this to make this a very reliable process of isolation milling. But with that, I hope you get a good understanding of what we use in the isolation milling process. Not everything is needed. Some things are more important than others. But as we go through this whole series, you will learn a lot about the importance of each step and if it's of benefit to you. In our next video, we're going to be talking about the design software and process. I won't be doing a full-on tutorial of it, but I'll go through, show you how I design it with the software that I use. It's very economical and very easy to use, and I think you'll be surprised as to how easy it really is. Well, that'll wrap up this one. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and if you could be so kind, please subscribe, like, and share these videos with others. It will greatly help the channel.